Welcome to the first EUCS qualifier. I'm Richard Polscam. This guy's James Dress O'Leary. How are you doing today, Stress?
I'm doing good, but it has been a long time since we've been here in the Challenger studio. We're about to find out who's going to be joining the spring split for Challenger Series.
Yeah, far too long. I feel like it's been too long. I've been getting withdrawal symptoms from not casting, so I'm glad to be back. Let's take a look at the agenda for the next 2 days. Today, it's Tuesday, and it's going to be Renegades and Banditos versus Millennium in a best-of-5 to secure their spot. Then tomorrow, which is Wednesday, will be Team Huma versus Illumina Honor Gaming, and they'll be also playing in a best-of-5.
I'm glad you know what day of the week it is.
Yeah,
it's
usually
not Friday
I don't.
yet. It's
usually
not
I
Friday yet. But, you know, we need to take, kind of what are these teams playing for exactly, and that is the spot in the Challenger Series spring split that I was talking about. Win in either of these best-of-5s and you're in. And when you are in the Challenger Series, you're going to be joining some of the returning players. Copenhagen Wolves got relegated from LCS to one of the newer teams to Challenger. SK Gaming lost to G2, who are now in the LCS, as we said. So those are the two teams coming down from LCS. Mousesports lost to Gambit in their promotion relegation setup, and Inspire Esports picked up Denial Esports spot. So those are the 4 teams that are remaining in the Challenger Series for spring.
Yeah, so already a pretty stacked lineup when we take a look at those teams. But CS will restart next week on Tuesday, January 26th, and we'll be moving away from Wednesday. We're going to be a Tuesday show now, and we're going to be moving to a best-of-2 format. That means 6 whole games on one day.
Yeah, 6 games that are all going to be broadcast as well. So no more of the pre-recorded on a Tuesday with the highlight clips. We're all live in Challenger Series. But if you want to check any of the details of any of the changes, check lolesports.com. A primer, I think, just went live within the last hour or so.
Yes, indeed. So if you didn't catch any of that, you can just catch it on LoL Esports. With all that out of the way, let's hit today's lineups. On the blue side, it is Millennium. So in the top lane, it will be Kaze with Joko in the jungle, sitting pretty in the mid lane with AD carry Hans Sama and support Masterwork. And this is a former LCS organization, so if you watched LCS back in the day, you'll remember Millennium, and this will be a French organization now fielding 3 out of 5 French players.
Yeah, one of the biggest French organizations, really, when you look at it. Always have the gaming house going, always able to produce talent across multiple games, so interested to see how they'll go now in Challenger Series. But this Millennium lineup, the 5 players, very different to what we saw out of the LCS team, which was a lot about pick compositions. This team is apparently a lot more about teamwork. The games we've seen, the people we've spoken to about these players are very good at team fighting, very good at map play across the map with split pushing as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out.
Yeah, and not only have they been talked up a lot by different players and people in the community, we've also seen it in the results. They 3-0'd Giants Underdoges and completely wiped the floor of them. So, it kind of speaks for itself. But their opponents will be Renegades Banditos, and they're going to be on the red side this time. They're going to be on games 1, 3, and 5, and then they'll be swapping up. Top lane Alfari, jungler Impaler, Kadril in the mid lane with Tabs and Hiva in the AD carry and support duo.
So some somewhat familiar players in that lineup when you look at the likes of Tabs and Hiva, but the actual organization itself, and now having a Challenger squad, is very new. It's the same organization with the North American LCS team, Renegades, that you saw play in this past first week of the LCS. In this case, 3 out of the 5 players are from the UK, which is interesting to us because there are some names that we've known for a very long time and some names that came through the UK scene very recently that we actually haven't had too much of an opportunity to watch yet.
Yeah, fantastic to see these players representing their region, but as you mentioned, a mix of old players and also new faces. Kadril, Alfari in the top lane, 2 of the UK players, and Impaler, Tabs, Hiva also had that LCS experience. Hiva actually played for Gambit very briefly as well, so lots of experience. Hopefully these older players can bring up some of those new talents.
I hope so, and one of those new talents that we really wanted to look at is Alfari in the top lane. He's a player I've heard a lot about for probably the last 6 months to a year, but he's only 16, so this is his first time he's eligible really in Challenger Series, not yet available for LCS. And when people speak about Alfari and how good a player he is, at what level he is, everybody talks he's a very mechanically gifted top laner. He's very good compared to a lot of even the LCS talent that's out there. So I'm really interested to see how that works against a team like Millennium, who are so focused on split push and team fighting and just this very team play oriented setup that they have.
Yeah, I mean, solo queue doesn't always translate directly into team play, and it feels like we always have like one prodigy per generation of players. Maybe Alfari can be that one. Back in the day, we had Reckless when he was playing up against Heimerdinger's Colossi, and they were in Copenhagen Wolves. Then we had Senkirks and Power of Evil to some extent as well when we saw him on the Unicorns of Love, all the way back in the FACER tournaments we saw him in. So maybe Alfari can fill those shoes, but that's still a little ways in the future because he still needs needs to make it into EUCS first.
Yeah, he does still need to make it there. And, you know, it can be a long road depending on exactly how your results can go. I mean, they're not even in Challenger Series yet, as you said. At this point, you look at the standout players on both sides. I think we've spoken a little bit about Alfari on the one side, but on the other side, for Millennium, I've heard so much about their AD carry, so much about Hans Sammer and how he's very gifted mechanically, how a lot of their teamwork and their team play on a micro level in team fights is a lot about his positioning and how good he is. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out because, as you alluded to, they already 3-0'd Giants Underdoges, who are a team that have been around for quite some time in the Challenger scene. Now they've got this test against the Renegades Banditos, who are a newer team. They are a lineup that really only got finalized the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and both of these teams have like so much in terms of backing as well, like Millennium, the whole organization, and like tomorrow you see Huma and Illumina, like they don't have the same backing as these guys. These are two powerhouses, and honestly, like both of these teams could probably do pretty well in EUCS, but only one is going to get through.
Yeah, and speaking of backing, when you look at the Millennium setup, they do have the gaming house that they're at. Renegades don't, the Banditos don't at least. So it's one of those interesting situations where now you'll get to see whether kind of a fresh, young, hungry lineup, not to say Millennium aren't. Millennium have had a lot of success. You know, it's whether just that raw talent against the nurtured teamwork of Millennium. How does that clash of styles go?
Well, it's a question we'll have to think about as we head into the game a little bit. We're just waiting on the guys to get into Champions Select, so we're going to be a little while. But yeah, I was talking to the Millennium manager, and he was talking about, we're in Champions Select. But he was talking about the gaming house and how the guys are all getting into bed together.
into bed together. Whoa, gotta work
They're
on
not
that.
doing that, but maybe that would help
Rumors.
Team Sinji, I don't know. But anyway,
and slander.
so, yeah, he was saying how this will be their hardest matchup as they get into EUCS. And while their goal is LCS, this will be how they're going to get there.
Let's just go straight to picks and bans. So we're on 5.24 for our patch. The reason for that is because the semi-finals were played on that patch. Therefore, we didn't want to move it on to 6.1. There were a couple of minor changes in 6.1. Not a whole lot of overarching changes. So we're expecting a lot of the same that we've seen in LCS. Maybe a couple of different changes when it comes to the actual picks, but bans, pretty much the 100% bans. We're going to see the Kindred ban, it's the Gangplank ban, which is already out, and the Lulu gone already.
We're not going to see any of those. There are a few champions who disappear as some champions who come into the meta in 6.1. But it just means slight changes. One of the big ones is Misfortune. Misfortune is going to show her face more in this one because she doesn't have the E changes, which is a big deal. 90 damage off her E in 6.1 is a big deal.
At the later game, laning phase is still the same. This isn't 6.1 though. This is 524, so she's strong at all points. Tam Kench is there, and I think that the last ban, I have to say right now, would be Rise or Kindred, would be my estimation, and then the first pick will be whichever one is available. That would be my guess at this point. Trying to think of anything else on 524. It was a while since I actually last casted on this patch. That would be my hedging my guess here, especially when you look at like Kindred and the strength. Whoa. Okay. Anivia did see a lot of play on 524, so that isn't too much of a surprise. This would pretty much tell me Rise or Kindred is going to be first pick.
Yeah, I mean, we never usually saw Nivea banned. We just saw it played a lot. Same with Victor. We just had the control mages and mid lane as the meta evolved. Then we had the swap over. Didn't see a whole lot of it after that. And then Kindred will be the first pick. Pretty much a no-brainer. There's a good chance Brides will be picked up here. It depends what else they want to go for. Misfortune, as we already mentioned, is a high priority pick. Maybe even Alistair, because I still think he's a flex in this patch, because you can play him in top. There's a lot of matchups he's not actually that great into, but in the right circumstance, you can flex him into top. Otherwise, you just throw him support.
I'm still not expecting it, Pulse. I know you're hoping, but I'm going to move quickly away. I think, however, we will see Alistair. I just don't think he'll be in the top lane role. Alistair's still fairly strong in the support role. At this point, a lot of support's saying he's high pick and ban. We've already alluded to the likes of the AD carries. Still, Kalista is good. Lucian is pretty good still on this patch. A lot of options, and the Alistair has been locked in. I think it's going to be support though.
Yeah, it probably will. As I mentioned, it's a flex, so like if the top lane matchup is good, it happens to be Aurelia that they just decide to pick in, boom, you put it up to top lane and then you dump them.
If I have to sit here for a 2 best of 5s this week and do every pick and ban phase go, I think it's going to be Alistair top, I'm
if it's locked. Can we have that deal? If it's locked top lane, I can go off on one. But
yeah, okay.
Okay, all right, we've got that.
But other than that, we're backing all the way away.
Malzahar, Probably not going to see him. Actually did receive some nerfs.
He actually did. That's the funny thing.
So,
524 received some nerfs.
However, Misfortune was also locked in, so kind of what we were talking about already. Just as a reminder, the players are not in the correct order, so once we head out of Champions Select, they'll jump back in, get in the right order. It's just Masterwork and Hand Hammer
yes.
to be swapped around. So.
Yeah, and so another thing to look at this Alistair, I know that Masterwork for Millennium is actually a big Alistair player himself. Has had highlight reels done of exactly how he wants to play or how he can play. I've seen a couple of them on YouTube. Really interesting setup out of the Millennium, and they're kind of keeping with a bit of a flex theme here.
Yeah, I mean, Morgana, a big flex. Same as Kindred. All of these picks can be flexed in multiple roles. Shen, still the rework has not come through, not even in 6-1, but he will probably be in the top lane or support.
Yeah.
Again, just depends on the matchup. So RNB, really just down to them, like, kind of, it's difficult for them to pick up picks that are like direct counters to any of these.
Yeah, I mean, right now my estimation would be Kindred jungle, Morgana support, Shen top, because the way Millennium like to play is with a high split push pressure, and with them banning Fiora at this point and the ability not really to split push on a whole bunch of other champions, I think they'll put the Shen up there and have that as a comfort pick for Kaze and see how exactly that goes. But if they lock a triple AD carry composition, we've seen two AD carries.
Yeah.
We know Graves can jungle, and it has been locked in.
Not the Corki, though.
Okay.
It's going to be swapped over to Vix. So we're not getting too crazy over here.
I mean, it wouldn't be that crazy.
No, because we've seen all of those all those AD carries in their respective roles.
What I would have said about that, though, is that Millennium build armor, and then as long as you get through the magic damage of Corki safely, you're actually okay.
Yes. When you've locked Shen and Morgana, and it's like, well, okay.
Yeah,
like,
I think we're okay. Because Last Whisper still, it's not a great item once people get a whole bunch of armor. It's just like, okay, that's nice, you've got Last Whisper.
Yeah, and anything
try getting through
still,
this.
like, yeah, it's not that fantastic. Graves locked in, however, good chance it will go jungle here from what we've seen in 6-1. Victor for the mid lane will make sense. Just waiting on the last two pickups. I'd love to see Draven. Not sure if we're going to see it really. Usually the only people who pick Draven anymore are the people who only play Draven. You know?
Yeah, I'm expecting maybe Freeze in North American LCS at some point. I'm just looking at their setup. So, as I said earlier, I'm expecting it to be Kindred jungle, so we're looking for AD carry in mid lane here, which is what is hovered and is locked in. So, this is actually, when you look at it, not too far from a pick composition. You got Ari, you got Morgana. So for all of this that we're talking about, you know, the ability to
you can take the players out of the team, but you can't take the Millennium out of Millennium.
Straight up, it's not just a pick composition. Because of the way we've seen the game snowball fairly quickly, I think Ari is just a very solid pick when it comes to the mid lane. Just the ability to very quickly ramp your damage up, I think, is good. And Morgana in this situation against the Alistair. So it's not built for the composition, it's built around what Renegades, Banditos have picked. I still think also just you'll see the Shen split push come out in effect. So we joke about pick. That isn't the case, but it is an option.
Yeah, and on top of that, just the way we've seen Millennium play so far, very much about the team play. As you mentioned, split push will definitely come into it. Expecting more macro strategy from them, other than like one mindset, which is we need to get picks right now. So yeah, it's a different team. We're expecting different play style. Final swap up to Elise. That shuffles everything around. That means Graves will not be jungle. It'll be Elise. And then Graves where?
So this is
Alistair
either
top?
hang on. This is either the really stupid Misfortune AP, where as we said, we need to reorder picks and bans.
I did get a call that those are the legit picks. We're just swapping for the players.
So that means it's either Graves top, which we've seen, I think, in LPL last week, if I rack my brain.
Yeah, one, if two games in a max.
Alistair support, or it's that really stupid, if anybody played it, by the way, AP Misfortune support, which was ridiculous. I don't know how good it is right now after a couple of the changes on 6.1.
Really felt like a cheese solo queue pick,
basically, you'd like just make it rain on people, and then Thunderlords would proc, and it'd be like, great, well, there's half my health gone.
I guess I lose lane. That's
Guess I lose lane. Well,
anyway, join the discussion. Get on Twitter. Use those hashtags MILWin or RNBWin, and tweet that at LOL Esports, and we'll be checking in on what you think throughout this game. But from this graphic, it looks like Graves is going to be top. So, we are actually going to see that one. Interesting. Well, usually we haven't seen that much Graves, particularly in AD carry, because it's very difficult to harass your opponent, like at all, because you can't auto-attack through minions, which is a big deal, and he gets outranged by pretty much every other AD carry. In top lane, not too bad because you can just shove them in, but then gank pressure is a thing, so good luck.
I mean, he doesn't get outranged by Shen, thankfully.
Yes, that's true.
That is a champion that doesn't really care too much, or care for ranged abilities too much, just that Vorpal Blade. I'm interested to see how that lane matchup goes, especially... Oh, this is a good ward to start this out. This is like the money ward.
Yeah.
If ever... This is the ward that he'll probably put down almost every game, just in case somebody does this against him, where a team stacks top. So this is a big, big win for the Banditos here, as just that ward alone has spotted them out, gives the freedom to come down into the bot side, place a bunch of wards for themselves, and just establish control at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you so rarely actually see that, where a team goes for an invade, doesn't get any vision themselves, and gets the counter vision from the opposing team. Like, that is such a big deal in this game to start off. Millennium are basically blind for the first minute.
And the reason they're blind at this point is because as they were going into the jungle, the thing they had to be very conscious of is walking through the Graves damage. The reason they go through topside is they know realistically only Graves is going to be up there to deny them. So you're not going into a situation where you don't know where the enemy are. They can't really cut down through the rest of the jungle because they don't have vision on anybody else from the Renegades. And that means they can't really push for that vision. So as you said, that is you know, a situation where Millennium didn't gain all that much from it, but they are going for a lane swap.
Yeah, lane swap comes in, initiated by Millennium, and both duos will be going for the Gromp camp first, and double jungle comes out naturally. I'm actually thinking like the clear will be way better for RNB. Graves in jungle, one of his major strengths is the fact he can just rip through the jungle. And he's going to do the same even in the early levels with Impaler.
The other side of that is that between Elise and Graves, they can balance the damage from creeps so incredibly effectively. Not only does Graves knock creeps back, but the ability to let Spiderlings tank. There should be very little time in this whole 2 versus 2 setup in the jungle that Impaler and Alphari are actually damaged at all. Look at the difference between Kaze. He's already kind of like lost a third of his health. It's not that significant now, but if they end up meeting, if they look for a dive, that's when it could be significant.
Also depends how prolonged the double jungle is as well.
Yes.
Finally now, Alphari and Impaler finished their initial clear and neither of them taken any damage. Kaze has already had to burn through a pot going into the top side now. Masterwork also hovering around, just trying to get some vision down. And Kindred's camp is actually not too in a bad place. That is a good place to go for early in the game. This means Impaler Alphari go into the bottom side, take the camp away before they go for this. It will be the minion stack on both sides. And yeah, just a matter of who's going to take the turret first, but both of these should go down.
So my assumption here is that Millennium didn't want Kaze in the lane against Alphari and didn't want Alphari to try and gain too much of a lead up there. I'm not exactly sure how the Graves-Shen matchup goes, but that is, I figure, the reason for the lane swap. Mid lane is where our eyes are because Cadrael has... Cadrel, sorry, has put damage down onto Pretty. Impaler was looking for the gank, couldn't quite get in there.
Yeah, he's just going to go back to his own jungle. Wards have gone down in the river, and top lane, they're actually going to give all of the gold over to both top laners. So Graves and Shen will get all this extra gold, trying to deny as many minions as possible before it goes down. There you go. And now the minion wave is pushing towards Kaze, so he should be able to freeze this pretty nicely. Actually, an extra 2 minions, so actually very easy to do that. Haven't taken a look at bot yet. Now,
I wonder whether Impaler's going to use this to his advantage. The fact that the Kindred mark went onto Wraiths or Raptors, Kindred will get that just in time. I think had Cadrel been able to come across, they could have perhaps pressured out Joko on those Raptors, but weren't able to move over. I think Pretty had done a fairly good job on the previous couple of waves, just shoving in, making sure Cadrel could never leave and try and assist in the jungle. So a good start for Millennium when it comes to avoiding any kind of tricky situations, but this game is fairly even right now when you look at it. Renegades, Banditos, now putting their duo lane up into the top side of the map.
Yeah, Impaler just sitting has been pink warded. Joko actually very low in his jungle. As puts down the ward, that has actually seen out Kindred. Grump goes down, but he doesn't have any support behind him. Masterwork also heading into the top side. He may be caught out here by Impaler as he walks into the bush. There's the headbutt. Cocoon follows. Headbutt back into the lane, and there's no way he's getting out of that one. First blood over to Taps.
Way too much damage. I think perhaps for a second there, Masterwork was thinking, great, you headbutted me into a little bit of safety. But, you know, Masterwork realizes he's absolutely done for as soon as Misfortune even starts to react. Doesn't even burn his flash. So just the kill going over, but that is a nice setup here for the Banditos. Banditos, especially getting that onto Misfortune. Keep in mind, this is 524, so still does have that extra damage on Make It Rain the later this game goes. So any kind of... Big red.
But underneath this tower, Kaze goes in, tries to get the taunt off, lands onto the big tanks, but they take a couple tower shots and shrug it off. Gyoko now comes out of his jungle into lane. The double up damage, got that on a killed minion as well for the extra damage, plus the love tap is actually absurd. 140 damage. Gyoko will have to back off, taking away this pink ward, but he's out of mana, which is a big problem right now. Alphari got him chunked in the bottom lane, as you just saw, from Hansama, but he'll just teleport back down. That means Kaze still has his. And as he's still already in the top lane. So he's in a slightly better position right now. Impaler looking for another gank in the mid lane. Will turn to human form, lands the cocoon, but a little too close to tower. Good laser to follow up though.
Yeah, nice little follow-up. I don't think Pretty was expecting that cocoon to land. One thing I want to kind of look at is, as this game goes on, whether Graves looks to freeze. He teleported down, and I think was trying to set it up, but Hans Sammer appearing forced him to actually hit a lot in the wave. That's a lot of minion damage.
That's already a lot of damage from the minions, as you mentioned. Landed both parts of his Q, and Hans Sammer has to back off. Both of them taking a bit of damage, but also allowed Alphari to get true grid up, so it had the extra resistances.
Yeah, and the other side of that is Hans Sammer actually does use his heal. He was drawn into a fight that he didn't need to take. He was only trying to force Alphari away from the wave, had to use summon a heal. Couldn't really stick around all that much longer. And this game is kind of tipping towards the Bandito side when you look at a little bit of the farm. It's fairly even in the AD carries. Top laners has started to even out, but this is the play Millennium want to make. Teleport down into the bottom lane. Alphari is in a lot of trouble here. Not level 6, so can't really look for the full burst.
Yeah, he's already used his Q as well and only got a bit of damage down. Turns around, Gyoko taking a fair bit of punishment. He'll flash back in for some reason. Kaze gets the taunt down. The rest of the team closing in. The Pierce lands, but the last auto from Kaze finishes him off just before Impaler comes in with the assist. And only now Heaver and Tabs come down. Was not able to buy enough time.
Yeah, I think Gyoko flashed in, didn't have a full stack of mana there for an ability, and couldn't really output too much, so realized he doesn't want to keep going forward, otherwise he risks the Graves Q kind of clipping the wall and bursting everything down. You can see how potent this damage from Alphari is when he can land the Q with the follow-up and the explosion. If he was level 6, that was almost certainly a kill onto Gyoko.
Oh yeah.
At the same time, though, not level 6. That's exactly the teleport timing that Millennium needed to try and offset Alphari's early game.
It's actually funny because the jungle Graves matchup into jungle Kindred is actually a pretty good one for Graves early on, because he can literally just walk into the jungle, always gets the damage off a wall, and that's about 80% of Kindred's health just from an auto attack E, auto attack WQ, and then you basically just win. So in that situation, that's why he was almost able to kill her. Again, if he was level 6, would have been a kill.
I think, though, if Renegades focus on setting up the right fights like this one in the mid lane.
Has to use the ultimate flash forwards, and the Chaos Storm not quite in range. That was a hair's breadth away from Pretty as he jumped away with his ultimate. Heaver can be finding masterwork in the jungle and just get some extra vision down. They will be pushing down the mid lane as well. 2
ults for 1 ult. Not always worth, but here is the follow-up that comes from this setup. Is Renegades going to look to push the middle tower here? And with a double AD carry setup, they should be able to push towers very, very quickly. The one thing they have to deal with is the wave clear potential that Masterwork is going to have with Pretty as this game goes further on. So that is one thing that could deny Millennium or Renegades the ability to push this and stall it for Millennium.
Yeah, RNB really have the tempo in this game, though. As Kaze and Gyoko head into the top side, they already got seen out by that pink ward. They didn't clear it out. Mid lane, they already pushed in, got a bunch of damage on that tower. Alphari in the top lane here is not really under any pressure. Even if they siege with 2 people, they literally can't take the turret, because Alphari's Q clears it, and basically just that and an auto.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it realistically, both of these teams kind of have a very similar setup when you look at double AD carry, wave clear mid laner that can both have a lot of damage as this game goes on. The only real difference between them is Heaver's ability to just full-on engage on multiple people, and Masterwork's ability to either catch one person or save somebody from an Alistair engage. There is a little bit of a difference here, but kind of the same setup.
Yeah, well, mid lane looking to get ganked here. K-Draw already dropping low, has to cleanse out of that one. Heaver with a nice response though, gets the knock-up. Lamb's Spike comes down, keeps him alive for now. Which way is he gonna try and escape? Not that way! A laser comes down, picks up that kill. The tower still hammering away at Kaze as he manages to escape. 1-0, fail dive from Millennium.
Yeah, that was an uncharacteristic play from Millennium. We've seen them make that sort of play time and time again. The problem was the Lamb's Respite just ran out, and they were stood there like, uh-oh, that's a Victor laser that's coming towards me, and not really able to make that coordinated play with the Alistar. That's one of the reasons he's so strong.
Oh, the Cocoon landing as well. There's the ultimate coming in from Kaze. And now the flash into the Taunt through 2 players, but he gets turned around on. Oh, and the collateral damage is enough to take him out. Cadre, or K-Draw. Man, that name is already messing me up. Starting to back off. 1-0 again over to RNB. That was, yeah, a lot of damage.
Yeah, that was a lot of damage. You gotta respect the ability for Graves to output so much damage. This is Graves on triple longsword Dorans. He's about to go pick up a little bit more damage. He's got 1,500 gold on him right now. Once he recalls, what's he gonna go for? I imagine gonna kind of look to pick up the components. The serrated dirk is gonna be on the list, I imagine, and it is.
Nope, it's the hammer.
And the serrated dirk.
Oh, okay, we're both right.
There's a dirk next to him, don't worry.
Well, Dioko clearing out this one, gets another stack for himself. Should be on his way out. Currently marked Graves. I wonder if that is the best target in this game. I feel like Tabs may be slightly better. Alfari is surprisingly tanky. And now he's picked up the Swiftness boots as well. Swiftness boots are so good in this patch, especially because Pretty and Masterwork are going for Frost Queen's claim this game, so that also reduces those slows.
And one of the reasons why they're so good is just how cheap they are compared to every other set of boots. Every other one's going to cost you an arm and a leg at like 1,100 gold. These are like 800 budget boots. Let's get them and go, boys.
You never feel bad when you're buying them. Like early game when I'm buying like Merc Treads, I'm like, this is so expensive. I really want to build my Sunfry right now, but you can just pick them up.
And it's quite interesting that Heaver would opt for the MOBA boots as well, because one of the big discussions that a lot of supports have had recently especially is the Swiftness boots in fights. It gives you less movement speed to get between lanes for ganks, but you maintain a higher level of movement speed during team fights. Perhaps not the most important thing for an Alistar. Once his combo is down, don't really have too much more to do other than auto and heal people, but still just an interesting decision from Heaver.
Yeah, it's also important just to get a range for the initial combo.
Yeah, definitely so.
But also you can go Alacrity. I'm actually seeing that a fair bunch on a lot of Swiftness boots users, as it is an extra 20 movement speed, so pretty nice. Alfari in the mid lane. Something that Graves is really bad at doing is clearing wards, because you have to reload, so it takes so long. If you've ever tried to clear a pink ward as Graves, it's a depressing experience.
Either that or you have to like throw an E in there as well.
Yeah, and it's just like, well then, if someone
no
comes,
there to catch you, just throw a smoke screen out and be like, I'm definitely not.
Yeah, and then you've just spent like 100 mana trying to clear a pink ward.
That'd be a really cool interaction, is if you smoke screened a ward, that it would reduce the vision of the ward. I mean, it's fairly useless, like, let's be real. I just think it'd be a nice touch.
It would, it would. He'd be the only one who could do it as well, because Quinn can't exactly throw a bird at a ward and then have it blinded.
Well, that's very true. Did they pick that up?
They did.
Yes,
it went over to Alfari.
Yeah. So that was one of the changes on 524. That
a very nice one.
A nice change that makes sure you can get it on the right person. Was the change where the Rift Herald would drop the buff Doom's Eve. The Eye Relic drops.
Yeah.
Doom's Eve.
Sounds like cataclysmic, like as a word, but in reality gives you 40% attack speed on minions. It's like nowhere near a barrier buff.
Have you ever seen the names of like some, you know, on Bonfire Night, the fireworks, which is called like, I don't know, like cataclysmic explosion, and you set it off and it's actually just like a tiny pew.
Yep.
Yeah, that kind of
thing. It goes like 10 seconds, like, well.
Eve. Exactly. It's
That's
like
what the Herald is.
This is not what I paid for. Here we go. Clearing award, Grave style.
Takes so long.
Oh dear.
Actually triggers me. But Dioko, look how fast that was, clearing that pink.
Much faster.
Yeah. Actually, Alfari has not got a lot of mileage out of Doom's Eve so far. He's just gotten the buff and pushed up top lane.
The difficulty for him in this situation is he went top, pushed it out. It's now getting accepted by a Shen, with a Kindred stood in the jungle right beside it, no team wards of the Renegades anywhere near him. So the actual ability to catch that bot lane, whew.
Oh, flashes away, jumps back in, tries to get a combo down onto Impaler. The Spider comes back down, and Shen comes in with Stan United and pretty gets away. But I've seen too many defensive ultimates this game from Ari already.
Well, you say that, and I do agree, there have been a couple. I don't think it's that much of an issue, but just when you look at how much Renegades are throwing at the Ari, they're trading ult for ult, which is kind of almost an even trade. I would say if Millennium can force a team fight while the Misfortune ultimate is down, it becomes beneficial for Millennium. I just... You know, they have to make that work. It's not something that is straight up even. I would definitely agree that if you can reduce the ability for an Ari to get onto our enemies and actually catch people out, it does significantly kind of mess up the pick.
Very true. Also, on top of that, pretty bonus flash.
Yes.
So
that one is the key difference. Like,
winner, winner, chicken dinner. Hansama is leading the charge. Typically, you don't want to be the one leading the charge into a Graves Misfortune. And they will be moving into the bot lane. No ult, no flash.
Now there's no ult.
Good luck, pretty. The damage against the wall was so big. Hiva comes in. Tabs will be picking up the kill. That was a textbook kill in the bottom lane, and that is what happens when you don't have any defensive
Yes,
spells.
that is the knock-on effect that you were kind of alluding to. Ooh, Lamb's Respite forced out just in time. And now the Renegades can push. Shen is up in the top lane. Does not have the ultimate available, only has teleporting. Can't really teleport to this turret to do anything. He'd die far too quickly, so is just stuck up there on his own. He's not going to get the same amount of work done here because I imagine Alphari will go up and receive the wave.
Yeah, and this team from RNB clears towers very quickly. The Misfortune and Graves both do a lot of damage to turrets, plus Spiderlings with Skittering Frenzy is a lot of damage to turrets if you just only have no minions there. So, that's the tower going down in the bottom lane. 60 minutes in, by the way, and an inner turret already going down. That was just a nice map movement coming in from the Renegade squad. Now everyone will just space back out again. Alfaro's even there to pick up the wave. It didn't even hit the turret. That's probably as well as it could have gone for the Renegades.
Yeah, it really is, because when you look at the situation top lane is in, Kaze had a little bit of time to farm up just a couple of extra CS, try and close the gap, because there is a significant lead for Alphari in this top lane, not only on CS, but you know, the assist he has and just the map pressure he's putting out overall, has about 1,400 extra gold on top of Shen, and Shen isn't able to sit in that lane against Alphari, has picked up a Sunfire Cape, so will help him a little bit, but it probably isn't going to do too much. It's all about whether he's going to be safe in that lane, how the warding is around the lane, whether he's going to need to teleport back down to another fight.
Yeah, and right now, blue wards are starting to be picked up as well. Still got a warding totem in the mid lane from Kadril. The Essence Reaver picked up by Tabs. I was looking at it for a second, I was like, what is that item? Only being built by pretty much every Misfortune ever, but will be picked up. Also with the Swiftness boots.
Oh yeah, gotta get them budget boots.
Yeah.
It's like the new equivalent of, you know, when we talk about brown paper bags on their feet,
Yeah.
budget boots. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, if those would make me move like, 500 dunes faster a second, that'd be pretty good. It's not 500 dunes, it's just like 80. But Masterwork does not want to be walking into that bush. Kadril with the ultimate. Hansama picks him up, throws him away. But that's another ultimate down. Ultimate for ultimate though, and it was Kadril's. So that's actually pretty big. Alphari wants to get in range to try and drop the end of the line, but just can't quite get in range against Kaze and Joko. As soon as the taunt comes in onto Alphari, he's dead. And Hansama also up there. Nice rotation coming in from Millennium. And they'll just back off as well. Mid lane, can Renegades get anything from it? Well, Dragon just spawned, so that's one objective for them. It will be their first of the game, so the first Dragon is actually pretty important for a team. The rest, not so much, as we're seeing games end pretty quickly now, unless you're an NA. But in EU, you're seeing pretty fast games.
Trading it for a very aptly timed Rift Herald as well. Is this not going on to Shen? Okay. So, why I would estimate that is that Shen doesn't want to get dragged too far out of position. The problem with that is I don't think Hansama can stand against Alphari, so I guess what they're trying to do is neutralize the solo lane and somehow try and push faster with the core pack of Millennium. The problem with that is you're running into a Victor, and you know the Rift Herald buff is not the same as Baron buff. you know, Victor's still going to stand in that wave and just clear it out pretty quickly. So I wonder which lane they put Kalista in now.
Unless
Do they
they
maybe try 1-3-1? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The problem with that then is I think that the Renegades team can just engage on the 3 incredibly quickly, and Hans Sammer is going to be such a big portion of the actual fight that without the AD carry there, Millennium might struggle if that happens.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure who he can duel on that team, like whoever they decide to send. Like they send maybe Alphari to stop Kaze, maybe they send Kadral to stop him. He just dies instantly. Even if Alphari goes up against him, okay, he can kite the Graves around, makes one misstep, and that's all of his health gone from Q ult. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting choice, and I'm waiting to see what Millennium actually do with it. I don't think it's a particularly bad choice, just because if you're going to take Rift Herald, you probably don't want to give it to Kaze right now, just because of the ability for Graves to clear the wave and the inability of Shen to sit in the wave against Kaze, against Alphari. So I guess they were kind of short on options for who to give it to.
That's true. Well, only has a little bit left on it, but doesn't look like they're going to get anything from it. It was kind of also one of those things where, like, the Herald was there, and they might as well take it while Dragon was being taken. It's not really a high-risk objective. Yeah. Pretty now pushing the top lane. He doesn't have teleport, remember, so he's going to be stranded up there, but there's no objectives on the bottom side, really. Just most of the members from both teams are congregated around there. Baron has just spawned, but probably not going to see an early Baron unless we see a wipe.
I would think not. I'm kind of surprised Renegades aren't just going, okay, well, they're top, so let's either cut off the top laner or cut off the Ahri in the top lane or run down mid and try and set up vision for a pick. They actually have fairly little vision control, the Renegades, right now. They have one pink that you can just see at the top of your screen on the right-hand side, one in their own jungle, and one down in Tribush in bot lane. They had 3 pink wards in their inventory and are trying to establish a little bit more control, but I feel like this was the time to push a little bit further out. Shen's in the bottom lane, Ahri's in the top lane. You know you can retreat in time. Push further, get a bit more vision control, see what you can get done. Well,
the vision game is currently around the Baron pit. Yoko takes a bit of punishment from Impaler. I'm actually interested in Alphari's build. He's decided to go for the Ghostblade into Rapid Fire Cannon, actually holding that for a second as Joko almost gets caught out by Impaler. But this is the build which is kind of like a hybrid between the AD carry one and the jungle one. Like you sometimes see the Ghostblade more in the Asian regions more than the Western ones like to go for the core of like more Malmortius and Sterax. But the Ghostblade gives you a lot of early damage because of the penetration it gives. Also, the movement speed is really nice. The rapid fire cannon is really nice in the crit build, but he's kind of just combined the two. And I just want to know what happens when you play that in top lane, because it doesn't give you any tanky stats.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go first on that. Is that, you know, Ghostblade obviously it just makes you fairly squishy compared to general top laners, and, you know, the likes of a Shen, who is going to have the Sunfire Cape, is working on the Spirit Visage at the same time. So that is something we have to track as we go further into this game. They do have an Alistair to provide some tankiness, plus now an Elise that's building a Locket after the Aegis, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So there is that replacement on the team, so I'm not too far against what Renegades are doing with it. And if it does output overall more damage for Alphari, then perhaps that is the change they want. Ooh, lots of damage.
Yeah, from both sides. Joko dropping lower and tabs as well, but he still had heal. Joko, yeah, okay, he still had Lamb's Respite, but doesn't want to be popping it this early, especially with Dragon coming up soon. Maybe contested. Again, it's not a big deal if you lose it, especially with 1 Dragon apiece. Very unlikely we're going to head to 5 Dragons.
I swear it's called Make It Rain, not Make It Hail. Like golf ball size.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
It's like, that's exactly what Thunderlord's Make It Rain is, just getting caught in an ice storm. Yeah. It's just shards of ice falling from the sky. But at that point, you can see Joko had to think twice about it. He's like, no, I don't want this.
Yeah,
I don't want this anymore.
Like, you take a look at this build as well, and he's basically doing the same things as Graves. Like, he's going for the Warriors into Rapid Fire Cannon, gives you no tanky stats, all relying on your ultimate to stay alive, really. And it's fine because you can dance around the fights and pop the ultimate just when you need to. And if they're focusing you to the point where you just need to drop the stasis, it's fine. But at some point, you may want to build something so you don't get blasted by Kadral.
So we're getting to a point where, if you caught any of the EU LCS games,
that works.
That does work. The Hex Drinker does work on Kindred. We're getting to the point where if you watch the EU LCS games, they'd be starting to come to a close in the next couple of minutes. However, in this game is a little bit slower paced, 4 towers apiece. No team really has the ability to push just because of how much wave clear there is on one side, how much, you know, the ability to push there is on both. They can kind of push up to a turret, but neither can go past it. It's going to take some kind of event, cataclysmic event here. We're bigging them up like the fireworks, to try and to unsettle this game, I feel.
Well, Gyoko and Alfaria found each other. Looks like this blue buff's just going to go to Gyoko though, and get chased out of this jungle. Maybe Renegades went to the same tactics meeting as their NA squad and was like, you know what, let's go to 1 hour, fight a bunch of times, and let's finish the game.
I kind of hope not. I mean, it was a hype game.
It was.
But I'm not sure our games in a best of 5
might die of old age.
Yep. Might have to start tomorrow's best of 5 by the time we got done with
we finished and it's like, are you ready for day 2?
But, you know, Renegades Banditos are pushing down mid. They do have time here because there is no real wave clear. Only the Morgana at this point. They've got to be careful of the RE flank from the side. They're caught too.
There's a lot of damage, and as the knockup comes in from Heaver, that's enough to take him out. Pretty will have to dash away. Still has the flash though. Tabs will cleanse that one out. Almost getting charmed out there. The middle tower goes down. Run dry of minions, and now they'll head towards the Baron pit. Look at the vision though, out from Millennium. They'll know exactly where they're going, and RNB know it as they walk over towards which they can clear. But they still might go for it. The jungle is down. Gyoko's out of the game for 20 seconds.
Well, here is the push onto the Baron. You have got 4 members closing in. Kaze, if you can get a good taunt here, could land. Ooh, on Tabs.
Yeah, flash taunt onto Tabs. Heaver in the back lines, though, able to zone them away. Handsour actually just hitting the crab while Kaze dies. And Kajol pops down his own ultimate to zone away the AD carry. Collateral damage onto Pretty and Masterwork. They'll be backing away into the mid lane. Pretty still has his flash. So does Masterwork. Actually does not. Had to use it in that fight. Didn't use his own ultimate. And now there is no way that Millennium can contest. However, RNB do decide to back away, being fairly chunked out from the fight.
Yeah, they were pretty chunked, so had to back away. So it stops the Baron overall. Does give a little bit extra gold over to Renegades. Heaver will knock back Gyoko. I think Heaver might be a gunner here.
Yeah, I think he's pretty dead. The Wolf's Frenzy can't get away from that one. And now with that pick, Millennium, they're walled up though.
So the thing is, Gyoko and Kalista Hansama here would be able to do the Baron fairly quickly, but I think they take far too much damage doing it at this point. They're fairly squishy. Ooh, Impaler, can he land?
Ooh, almost splashed into it.
Yeah, nearly gets it. Now got to be careful of the turn.
Yeah, Gyoko coming in with the Shen on top and doesn't land the taunt. Oh, Impaler, the charm hits him from Pretty. That'll be enough damage. Ults away. Oh. Tabs turning around with the bullet time though, and Kaze dropping low. The Lance Respite comes in. Wasn't quite enough damage. Gyoko has to stay inside here. Last also coming in from Kajol knocks him out, and Pretty will have to flash away. Kaze coming in, Masterway thrown into the team. Kajol goes down, Alfari turns around, is enough to take out his own target. That's a 2-for-2 overall. A pretty messy fight, and both teams will back off.
Yeah, Alfari just managed to pick up the kill with the return of End of the Line there, and I could see Kadril looking for the Q on the minion to get the movement speed, but didn't anticipate Masterwork being thrown in by the Kalista ultimate. Got the triple knockup and were able to take a little bit more from that fight for Millennium than I think they were going to if you look at how the rest of the fight would have played out. But the Banditos, every time they're trying to get something, Millennium are just holding on. And just that 3-person knockup was so good to watch, but at this point, this was the beginning of the fight. This misfortune damage is pretty disgusting. Not gonna lie. The ult damage is kind of crazy. You can see once again, Kindred is able to just survive in her ult, but when the ult runs out, that's exactly the moment that she's the most susceptible. Oh, it was a double knockup. If you'll excuse me, Tabs was just out of range, but you saw Kadril trying to get the extra movement speed. Alfari picks up the last kill, but for that, Millennium holding on. They are still only 3,000 behind. The Banditos have been making moves, trying to extend their lead in the last few minutes, though.
The key part of that fight, though, was Kajol had to use his flash, so he finishes off Gyoko with the second part of his Q, and that's what meant that he got taken out at the end of the fight, because he didn't have a flash to get away.
Yeah.
So, actually, ultimately, that basically traded him for the jungler, which is, in this circumstance, probably not worth, as he is one of the major AoE damage dealers in this team. Still, everyone is back alive right now. Kaze in the bot lane still has his ultimate, has a teleport as well. 2 ways to get into the fight. Baron is still alive, so there's points of contest for these two teams. And a lot of staring down, though, going on in this one.
Just staring from a distance.
Yeah. And a binding.
Now there's been enough fighting, to be honest. I mean, there's been a whole lot of engagement. Ooh, ow. When I watch Misfortune, I'm just there thinking, ow, ow, all the time when you get hit by that damage. It's just like, I don't know. I know that's not a very natural response. It's not like it's actually inflicting pain, but it does just seem very much so that way when
I mean,
watching.
that happens, right? Like when you get hit by something in game and you're just like, ah, that hurt. And it's just like, it didn't actually hurt.
That is not something I'd want, is like one of those virtual reality things that converts like...
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's not good. I would not want that. But at this point in the game, what I think the Banditos would want is the next dragon coming up in 1 minute. Oh, I think they'd want to just win the game, to be honest, but I think they're a little way away from that. Millennium have had a lot to say about that as well, being able to hold on pretty well when you look at the rate that games snowballed away with a lead. Oh, good catch onto Impaler. Can't really convert it into a kill, but it's good damage to start.
Yeah, Pretty has almost exclusively gone damage as well. That being said, Impaler has just gone tank. Yeah, has a lot of magic resist and a lot of health. Probably would have been enough to take down K-Draw. Maybe not Alfari at this point, especially with Sterax. And back to this mid lane stare down. Spooky Ghosts come out. They get progressively more spooky now.
Not on this patch.
Oh no, that's 6-1.
Yeah, these are
lesser spooky ghosts.
Linear amounts of spooky.
Yeah.
But the item still does do a lot more on this patch,
Yes,
so expect it.
A full 4 seconds.
Whew. It's a lot of catch potential. Dragon is up. This is like the first European Dragon dance I've seen.
Yeah, that's true.
We did not see one of these in the LCS just because of how quick the games were. Did not have priority over it. Oh, good taunt.
Yeah, onto Alfari. He'll be backing away here. So will Kaze. Masterwork jumps in. And Alfari dropping low. He'll be backing off to his team, but not before another taunt comes down. Bullet Time comes out and is able to zone away a lot of Millennium as well as take them out. K-Draw comes in with his own ultimate. He takes the second one. Pretty will be heading into the bottom side of the map. Not sure if he can get away from Tabs though, especially as Struck comes up and the E is in range. He slows him down, looking for this final auto. The ace comes in. 50 seconds on that death timer. Screw the dragon, let's just finish the game.
Yeah, at this point, the death timers are so long on this patch that they're able to just push through. I imagine maybe they're looking for Baron here, because I think
first.
As soon as they get Baron, the waves become so difficult to clear for Millennium. And, you know, that fight all hinged on Millennium chasing up into the jungle. Not only did they have to contend with the Graves damage of being able to just, you know, control small areas of space, but then into a Misfortune as well. Tabs got so much damage to clean that fight up. We're going to take another look at it again. This was the beginning of it, as Heaver got caught, chunked for over half of his health. It looked good at this spot for Millennium, but that's a fantastic taunt. If the damage can follow up before Renegades are able to kite back up this entrance. Look at the damage Graves has already put down, and it's on Tabs now. Just sit back and just completely shoot people down with bullet time at this point. Nice little attempt from Hans Salmon to dodge out of the Victor laser follow-up, but not quite enough. And that was all she wrote for that fight for the Renegades.
And that was a 3 versus 5 for most of that fight. Tabs and Heaver were being zoned away by Pretty. He was doing a fantastic job after initially chunking Heaver. Then he chased them down with Spooky Ghosts. And then, by that time, his team was already taking most of their health away. And Tabs just needs to come with the bullet time.
Oh, that's sad. That's one of those cocoons where you're like, well, if you just kept running,
yeah,
I would get the
he would have
cocoon.
walked into it. Yeah, feels bad.
Yeah, outplayed himself.
Yeah, yes. You didn't outplay me. K-Draw heading into the bot lane with Mr. Alfari, taking these turrets down. But yeah, not too long until we see curtains on Millennium in this game, I think.
Yeah, I would say the same. I think really just the wave clear aspect of this alone. Kalista can't reliably step forward. Plus Ari right now is not really able to clear it. And look at the double 80 carry, putting So much damage on that tower. Hiva could be caught, though.
Yeah, Hiva hasn't got a lot done in this fight, but he's still alive because of his ultimate being ridiculous. Alfari dashes in, jumps backwards with the collateral damage, more to get himself to safety than anything else. Kadril looking for the kill onto Gyoko. Lamtress bite comes down, tabs with a flash, and the auto takes his target down, and Pretty will have to back away. Kaze tries to get the shield up, but locks himself in a single position, and RNB will punish him for that. Handsama trying to kite around, trying to dance around this fight, but without a team in front of him, there's very little he can do, and RNB will close in and try and finish up this game. Pretty, all he can try and do is clear out these minions. That's all that's stopping Renegades from finishing out this game. But the second Nexus turret is so close to falling. Alfari just needs to auto it one more time, and there it is, the exposed Nexus, and this will be the win, going over to Renegades Banditos in game 1 of this best of 5.
And that was a pretty close game for like a good 25 minutes. Only really that bottom team fight around the dragon that blows the game wide open for Renegades. The Banditos, you know, they'd had a good lead for a fair portion of the game, but it wasn't seemingly enough to just keep going forward, keep going forward. They'd make a play and Millennium would come back into it. So even though the first game goes to Renegades Banditos, I still think this should be a fairly close best of 5.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It kind of spiraled from that bot fight, and that's where they continued picking up wins because they had the slight advantage and it just cascaded. If Millennium managed to do the same thing, I was going to say Misfortune for some reason, but if Millennium do that, then we could see the same game, but on the opposing side. So this is a best of 5. There's a long way to go until we finish out this series. And if Millennium pick up a win here, you go back to you know, having to finish up the rest of the game. So yeah. I
think you look at the comp the Renegades had, and it becomes very difficult to fight against it. When you look at how much damage Tabs was outputting in the late game, or the late part of this game, how much damage Graves had in those small enclosed jungle areas, I think it's so difficult not to get drawn into fights in that kind of situation that for a team like Millennium, who are very good at team fighting, they denied so many attempts to fight, so much of the game, and then just in that last one get drawn up the ramp, get pushed into this team fight that they can't really take. Then when Tabs just kind of wrecks everybody with the damage between Tabs and Alfari. But I would maybe like to see Millennium change up their team's comp a little bit. The Shen just wasn't working into the Graves. I think the Shen's a good pick, but maybe don't end up in that kind of matchup where Graves is just dominating.
Yeah, I mean, the big problem was it was so late into the draft. It was like, well, we kind of have to put him there now, that we've already drafted the Morgana and stuff. And it's just like, well, what can Shen do with this wave clear and the opposing top laner? So either they ban the Graves out, but then you pick another top laner with wave clear, something that we don't see right now. Like, it's hard for the Shen. So I think it can work, but absolutely it's a compositional thing and a situational thing depending on what you can pick top lane. Personally, I wasn't expecting to see the Graves come out, and I guess neither did Millennium.
That's fair. I don't think they were. And I think now that we swap sides, the Renegades Banditos on the blue side, we will have a big change up in Champ Select.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, that's game 1 in the books, so we're going to head to a short break, but when we get back, we'll be going into game 2 between these two teams.